Oh, seriously, this is no joke. If you use a circular saw, you need to watch this video. The reason for the video came about just the other day after I had a very close encounter with my little friend here. Now, I've been in the building trade for over 30 plus years and still have all my fingers. But on this occasion, I was in a hurry. I was complacent, and as a result, the saw viciously and unexpectedly kicked back, narrowly missing my thigh. It was only sheer luck that I avoided quite a serious injury. G'day folks, David here, and in today's video, I'll be taking you through my top 5 circular saw safety tips designed to take the fear out of using this powerful little beast and give you the best and safest experience possible. Plus, I've got a bonus tip at the end that you absolutely don't want to miss. Let's get into it. So our tip number 1 is never have a hand in front or directly behind the saw. If you can only manage to remember one of these 5 safety tips, make sure it's this one. Circular saw accidents can happen in the blink of an eye, literally faster than you can react. Never, ever have a hand in front of the saw or directly behind it. That's one of carpentry's cardinal sins. Too often I see woodworkers, even seasoned tradesmen, cutting with one hand while their other hand is hovering just inches away from the back or front of the saw. That's a disaster waiting to happen. Instead, resist the urge and keep both hands firmly on the saw at all times. Your leading hand should always be on the main handle, while your supporting hand should be gripping the auxiliary handle or the base plate for extra control. Why? Because if that blade binds and the saw suddenly jerks back, your hand won't stand a chance. Keeping both hands on the machine not only gives you full control, but also significantly reduces the chance of injury. And hey, if you absolutely must hold the workpiece with one hand, make sure it's well clear of the saw's path. In fact, if you need to hold the wood steady, a clamp is a much better and safer option. The next tip is, stop the blade before putting the saw down. One thing I've noticed a lot of people doing, especially beginners, is keeping the saw running once they've finished their cut. Don't do that. It's unsafe and unnecessary. Remember, this aggressive-looking blade can be spinning at up to 5,000 RPM. That's a whole lot of power, and you want it fully under control. The safest habit to develop is this. As soon as your cut is complete, release the trigger and let the blade stop spinning before placing the saw down. Not only does this eliminate the risk of the saw jumping out of your hands, but it also prevents accidental cuts and protects your expensive blade from damage. And while we're on the topic, always check that the blade guard springs back into place properly. If it sticks or doesn't fully cover the blade, it's time for some maintenance. A stuck blade guard is an accident waiting to happen. The next tip is prevent binding and kickback. Now, tip number 3 relates to a very important issue called binding. This happens when the wood you're cutting pinches against the blade, causing the saw to suddenly kick back toward you. This is one of the most common causes of injury, but luckily it's also one of the easiest to avoid. Never cut a length of material that is only supported at either end. If you do as you cut, the wood will sag in the middle, closing in on the blade and causing a nasty bind. Instead, support the wood properly. Let the waste fall away freely to prevent any pressure against the blade. A couple of other things to watch out for. Reposition your supports. If you feel the saw working harder than usual or notice the cut closing up, stop immediately and adjust the supports. Mind your cut line. If the saw starts to go off track, don't force it. Instead, stop, reposition, and start again. Forcing a binding blade is a surefire way to get a nasty kickback. Use a sharp blade. Dull blades require more force, which increases the risk of binding. If your saw isn't cutting smoothly, it might be time for a blade change. Another tip is secure your workpiece with clamps. Too often I see people struggling to hold their workpiece in place with one hand while trying to operate the saw with the other. It's like watching a bad yoga session, full of awkward poses and unnecessary risks. Instead, take a couple of seconds and clamp your workpiece down securely. Not only does this free up both hands to control the saw properly, but it also ensures a cleaner, straighter cut. Plus, there's no risk of the wood suddenly shifting mid-cut, which can lead to dangerous binding. Tip number 5 is clear the ground around you. Having an absolute awareness of what's on the ground around you is crucial when using a circular saw, or any power tool for that matter. Trip hazards like cords, tools, or even small offcuts can turn into serious dangers if you lose your balance while making a cut. Before you start, take a moment to clear your workspace. Make sure you have a stable stance and that nothing can cause you to trip. Trust me, you don't want to be holding a running circular saw while stumbling over a loose extension cord. Bonus tip: always wear safety gear. I know. Safety glasses and hearing protection aren't the most glamorous accessories, but they are absolutely essential. A tiny wood chip flying into your eye, or prolonged exposure to high decibel noise, can cause long-term damage. Also, consider wearing a dust mask, especially when cutting treated wood or MDF, as the fine dust particles can be harmful when inhaled. One more thing. Before you head off, I share similar tips and tricks here on this YouTube channel, so make sure to subscribe and give this video a big thumbs up. Alrighty, after all that, I'm off for a cup of tea. So, till next time, be good, be safe, and I'm out of here. Cheers.